Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you're watching my review for Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3, Stardust Crusaders, Episode 11. Alright, and in this episode, it kind of just starts off with Polnareff. He's getting taunted by Whole Horse and Centerfold. They're trying to goad him into staying there and fighting him. And it's kind of working, but Noriaki, he actually manages to get him to calm down a little bit and leave. However, when things get to the point where Polnareff is actually being attacked and he can't really leave at that point, he ends up using Emerald Splash on Polnareff to push him out of the way. And then he gets in a car, drives by, picks him up, pulls him in, and then that's how they're able to get away. And when they're in that car, they kind of make up. I say kind of because Noriaki's way of doing it was to elbow him in the face, but yeah, I guess you could say they made up. Alright. And as they're getting away in that car, Centerfold chases after them. Alright. And the next time he attacks them, it's from the paneling on the steering wheel. And because of that attack, Polnareff is actually able to figure out how it is that Centerfold was able to chase after them and how exactly it is that his power works. Okay. The way it works is that his stance is actually light-based. Alright, so he can move at the speed of light from surface to surface. Alright, and whenever he's in a specific surface, he can only be in one at once. Right, and if the surface he's about to be in is destroyed in some way, shape, or form, then he will bounce / reflect himself into another surface. However, he can only reflect himself into surfaces that can be seen from the surface he's already in. So in one of the things that happens later on in the episode, we see that he's in a person's eye, and they're looking up at the coin. There are other guys around him where he can switch into their eyes as well. However, because the person was looking up, and those other guys weren't in his vision, they weren't in his eyesight, he couldn't reflect into them. And he could only reflect into the coin. Alright, because that was the only reflective surface that could be seen from there. So, yeah, that's how his power works. Alright. And when Polnareff and Noriaki try and get away from the car and get away from all reflective surfaces, this kid shows up. Alright. And Centerfold reflects, or a hanged man reflects into the kid's eye. Alright. So Polnareff, knowing what he knows, he kicks dirt up into the kid's eye, and because there's only one place he can go to, which is Polnareff's eyes, he knows the trajectory that Hangman is going to be going in. So, boom, he swings his sword, and the Hangman does manage to get into Polnareff's eye. However, that sounded weird. Get into Polnareff's eye. However, Polnareff's attack did actually hit. Therefore, when he's in Polnareff's eye, he gets his cut and he starts to bleed. Alright? And when that happens, they actually hear screams from Centerfold. So the two of them run over and they find this guy who has a cut similar to Centerfold. However, it's not Centerfold. Alright? The real Centerfold ends up showing up and takes advantage of the fact that they weren't paying attention to the right guy. He comes over and he yells to all these dudes who are around there saying, oh, these guys want to give you money. So they all come over. They all crowd around Noriaki and Polnareff, and the Hangman is able to now reflect from Polnareff's eyes into the eyes of all those other guys. He can reflect back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and he just keeps slashing them over and over and over. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, like, why are you slashing them when you could just stab them and be done with it? I didn't really get why he was doing that. It's probably that villain trope where they decide not to take out the enemy when they can because they want to torture them more, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Noriaki ends up giving the guys what they want. He takes out that gold coin, flips it up in the air. That way there's only one place that he can reflect himself into, because the guys blink, and when they blink, the surface is destroyed. There's no, yeah, it's done. there's no more surface there until he opens his eyes, and until he opens his eyes again. But when he opens his eyes again, the hangman will be destroyed. So all he can do is reflect into the coin to avoid being destroyed. And when he does that, he gets slashed by Silver Chariot, and then Centerfold runs away like a loser. Alright? And I'm not saying he's a loser for running away. I'm saying he's a loser because of the way he ran. The dude was like running away, making stupid noises, like like he was just making stupid squealing noises, and it was just pathetic. It was stupid. If you're gonna run away, at least run away like Whole Horse did. Whole Horse was funny when he ran away, but yeah, he tries to run away, but Polnareff and Noriaki catch up to him, and they skewer him. Like the dude got dominated. Like I actually kind of expected more because Polnareff waited a long time to get his revenge on this guy, so I thought he would torture him for longer than like 5 seconds. But I thought this would be like, I don't know. I don't even know how I imagined it. I didn't really imagine that. I just thought that it'd be longer than that. I don't know how long it actually was. I just said 5 seconds because it was the first number that came in my head. But it was kind of short, but who cares? Not that big of a deal. After that, they start walking back into the city, and Whole Horse shows up. All right, but he doesn't realize that Centerfold was defeated. So once they tell him that, he runs away, like I mentioned before. However, Joseph and Jotaro get there. Boom, knock him down. All right. However, that girl from last week that he was screwing around with comes out of nowhere, tackles Polnareff, and creates a distraction for Whole Horse to run away. All right. And Polnareff tries to drag her across the ground to get her off of her. And eventually she does let go. However, when she was dragged across the ground, she started to bleed at her elbow, I think it was. And one drop of her blood ends up getting on Joseph Joestar because he was not fixing the injury, but wrapping it so that the bleeding would stop. All right. And that drop of blood ends up turning into like a seed of some sort or something, and it just starts growing. And we see in the preview it just starts to grow and grow and grow. So this girl is a stand user, clearly. The title of the next episode is The Empress, so I would assume that she's the Empress. One question I do have, though, is if Whole Horse knows about her being the Empress, because he wasn't treating her like a colleague. He was treating her like some random girl he'd never see ever again. Like someone who he was treating her like someone he didn't know. So I just thought it was interesting that she ended up being a stand user, given the way she was being treated by Whole Horse. But whatever, not a big deal. Overall, for this episode, I will give it. I'll give this one a 9 out of 10. Why not? Why not? All right, I was struggling between 9 and 8.5, but I'll give it a 9 for the heck of it. Because I did like how Hiroaki, or whatever the guy's name is, how he wrote this, where he made us believe that his power involved mirrors. Well, it does involve mirrors, but he made us believe that his power was one thing, and then someone was able to make it like, okay, it actually isn't that, it's actually light-based. So I like how he was able to kind of trick us like that and then have it all make sense still. So yeah, I'll give the episode a 9 out of 10, and that's that, you guys. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.